Formula One comes to Miami for the first time in 2022. Let's meet the experts behind the new track. One of the key aims of the Miami International Autodrome's design is to provide a great fan experience, as Apex's project director Sam Worthy explains.
So with the master of planning, specifically on the F1 Miami GP race circuit itself, we went through many iterations. And with those iterations, there's a focus not only on the fan experience for those that can't be here in person and through the TV, but also for those that are in the grandstands. And so when we were looking at all of the various passing opportunities, the DRS zones, we also kept a very close eye on what is this going to look like for those that are watching this and want to be part of the experience. And so while we still put in many opportunities for people to get excited about the racing itself, critical elements like the turn 17 area where we're going to get passing as they sweep through turns 18, 19 into the pit straight or over to the main straight itself. The fan experience in this location right behind me, this is overlooking all of those turn sequences. And so with that, people will be able to see those opportunities and see that passing. And so that provides people in person to have that experience. Then at the same time, people watching it on TV to also get engaged. So with Formula One, we also really want to make sure that the fans that are spread throughout the entire site have the opportunity to see what's going on elsewhere. On this particular circuit, since we have the 3 DRS zones, total of 19 turns, we have many other areas with hot action that we want people to be engaged with and be able to see. So there's many large video boards spread throughout the site that are easily viewable from all of those grandstand locations.
The track's trickiest signature corner sequence has provided a unique design challenge. Here's Charles Metcalf at turn 14.
Sector 3 is probably set to be the most technically challenging sequence on the circuit. So as you can see, as you approach T14, the rapid change in elevation results in a completely blind apex. And to add to the challenge, from the previous corner, the cars will still have lateral load as they approach the braking zone. So we really hope for this sequence to act as a mistake generator, bunching the cars up nice and close, leading onto the back straight that follows and creating overtaking opportunities. So as you can see with the overpass here, F1 requires a minimum of 4 meters clearance for the track. But the problem is this slip road here has a 7% crossfall. So when we needed to be going down, the track actually has to be rising to tie in with this existing road. So the issue here is we had to implement this chicane to get the cars nice and slow, to kind of thread the needle and get the cars down underneath the overpass. We've got such little clearance here that we're having to rear mount the debris fence behind these permanent walls just because we've got absolutely zero clearance underneath this bridge. So I don't think the overtaking will occur at this sequence. We're really hoping that this is the most challenging part of the track for the drivers, so it'll encourage and promote mistakes. So then when we lead on to the main overtaking opportunity on the back straight, the cars will be nice and close.
While we're on the back straight, R3's Dr. David Woodward explains the asphalt makeup of the track surface.
Okay, so we've got the local lime rock stone layers, and then on top of that we've got 3 layers of asphalt. And again, we were asked to get involved in the design and more importantly, so picking the materials. We had a brief. We had to use local materials, local aggregates. We had to use local asphalt companies, and we had to work within the requirements of the local FDOT and what they ask about their materials and what they. So it was a pretty difficult brief in one respect, because we had to come up with something that was maybe a little bit different from your typical Formula One track. Formula One track, you have a much wider range of aggregates and asphalt materials, where here we were stuck with the FDOT material, we were stuck with the local aggregates, and so it was a lot more challenging in one respect in trying to get something that's going to work, that F1 is going to be happy with, and is going to give an absolutely fantastic race. Last August was the first time on site with COVID, and basically the brief there was to go and actually have a look at the quarries. I'm a geologist, so I know what I'm looking at. I've been around a lot of tracks, I know what the aggregates, the asphalt should look like. So it was a case of trying to get a blend of 2 aggregates that is going to give us certain wear characteristics, which is going to make the race interesting from the tyre supplier's perspective. We want tyre wear, tyre degradation, and if we're just racing on this, it's going to happen to a certain extent, but it's not. We can make the race more exciting, let's say. We can give it a harsher surface. So we went up to Georgia and looked at the granites up there. We looked at the local limestone, which is not your typical limestone. It's got unique characteristics. And We brought the materials back to my lab back in the UK. We got asphalt materials, we did predictive testing. So we had a good idea of how the asphalt is going to change and evolve once it's being used, once it's being raced on. And then the other issue with the track here is that at the minute it's got fairly low texture, which is okay for F-Dot. Okay, but for Formula One, we want a slightly rougher surface at that sort of macro texture scale. And so a lot of the work that we did in those early stages was trying to see what we could do to roughen the track up to within certain limits. Okay, and on site in the next day or two there'll be some equipment that's widely used around different circuits around the world on new surfaces to basically roughen up the track, to remove this top layer of bitumen, to expose the aggregate a little bit more and let that grading, that mix of granite and limestone do its job and make it interesting for the race. Make it interesting for the tire guys. So whenever they turn up, it's going to give them a challenge because they won't know what their tires are going to do when they turn up here. And that is going to make this race really interesting because of the choice of the asphalt that we have in the surface here.
Here's Sam Worthy again on the construction of the semi-permanent racetrack.
So with this site, there's a lot that's been going on in order to make this happen. It started with the build of the site itself, and so Apex has overseen the construction of the track, not only the temporary overlay. And with that, my background is in project management and project engineering for large highway design projects. And so for me, this is really part of my bread and butter. Being brought on as project director, it's really to help oversee those construction aspects, making sure we're meeting the high expectations that not only Formula One have, but also the FIA and ultimately the client, in this case, the Hard Rock Stadium. And so with that, working with our Apex team, we've been able to oversee all of those various stages of construction. And then now, as we are getting into the recurrent events stage, what we're looking at is managing up to about 8 vendors over about 14 or so contracts in order to make everything within the motorsport precinct happen. And so every day is varied. We never know what's coming up. It can range from receiving deliveries on site to having to coordinate a technical issue that's popped up with our trench drains to having to jump over to temporary elevators on bridges. And so with those varied aspects, we have to have a very well-versed, knowledgeable team on hand. And that's what we've put together. And so my role as project director is to help bring everyone together, to help make sure that everyone is focused and on the right track in order to make sure we're removing roadblocks to make this happen.
Speaking of blocks, here's Kate Kishel on how Apex keeps track of the barriers using asset tags and a digital twin of the facility.
So these are asset tags that are used for the software we are in the process of designing called Apex Build. It is an asset management solution that we came up with just last October to help save our clients time and money. And so what I can do is I can go around with the mobile app on my phone. I can scan these QR codes and then select what I want to do with each asset. So install, uninstall, or report an issue. Then a digital twin is automatically created and uploaded to the cloud. And so you could log on to our web portal and see exactly what's happening on site at any point in time. You could run out, scan, say report issue, and then you have a complete log of the entire life cycle of that asset. So you could then track, has there been any other incidents with that specific barrier? How concerned should you be? Is it still safe to use going forward? And also just to make sure things don't get lost in the shuffle. Maybe it isn't as dramatic of a crash. And so it could be easy for someone to say, oh, maybe Charlie or Sam could check up on that, but then it would be overlooked with a million other things going on.
Apex's Harry Green explains how the curbs and drains are a key aspect and how the Apex team will be on the ground on race weekend in case repairs are needed.
The curbs have started going in over the past few weeks, so as this is a temporary circuit, we have temporary curbs, which are just a fairly sort of simple steel design which are bolted into the concrete. The actual work behind us as well is going on with the drains we have, so a lot of drains around site, about double the length of the circuit, and a lot of damage happens naturally through a construction sort of environment, so they are just finishing up doing some fixing work there. It's going to be incredible. It's especially our sort of insight. So I've watched races before, but we're going to be on the ground. A couple of our team are going to be part of repair crews. They're going to be waiting in marshal zones. That's going to be an incredible experience and a different viewpoint of the race that I didn't think I'd ever get. It's a bit of a dream. I've been a big F1 fan for a long time, and my degree was around vehicle design and especially specialized or racing vehicle design towards the end. So being able to have that side of it and then being immersed in a project like this in an industry that's just so amazing to be a part of, beyond my wildest.
And finally, AG's Kevin Barkham explains how 10 temporary bridges have been installed to allow fans to roam around the campus.
We have 10 bridges that range anywhere from 80 feet in length to 320 feet in length. Raw weight when they go in the sky can be anywhere from 28,000 pounds to 53,000 pounds. Finished, the bridge behind me you're looking at is probably going to be about 60,000 pounds, full weight with floors and walls on it. AG has been on this project now for a couple of months. We started this install I think 6 weeks ago. And we're talking thousands of people can, use that bridge per hour. That lift, all told, just the dry weight of that without its floors and walls and everything else that goes onto a bridge is 130,000 pounds.